there was a man named David who lived in a small apartment on the edge of the city. He worked long hours at an office job he didn't love, came home late, exhausted, and all he wanted each night was a little bit of quiet. But quiet was the one thing he never seemed to get, because 2 floors below him, his neighbor owned a dog, a small, anxious creature with a bark that seemed far too big for its body. Every night, when the owner left for the night shift, the barking began, relentless, sharp, echoing through the stairwell, through the thin walls, straight into David's already crowded mind. At first, he tried to ignore it, earplugs, white noise, calming music. But the dog kept barking, and David's frustration grew teeth of its own. He lay awake for hours, thoughts snapping in his head. Why would anyone have a dog if they're never home? I have to work in the morning. This isn't fair. I hate that dog. I hate that neighbor. I hate this place. By the time the barking stopped, he was too angry to sleep anyway. Days turned into weeks. The less he slept, the more the world around him felt like sandpaper. He snapped at colleagues. He lost his patience in traffic. Even small sounds, a car horn, a neighbor's TV, felt like attacks. "It's that stupid dog," he told anyone who would listen. "If it would just shut up, my life would be fine." One stormy night, during yet another round of barking, the power in the building went out. The hallway lights flickered and then went dark. David lay in bed, eyes open in the blackness, rage and exhaustion twisting in his chest. Finally, he got up. He stomped down the stairs, following the sound of the barking to the apartment 2 floors below. The door was slightly open. Inside, by the dim glow of a phone flashlight propped on a shelf, he saw the dog, pacing in circles, eyes wide, shaking with every rumble of thunder. For a moment, David froze. He had imagined a loud, vicious creature. But this was just a scared animal trying to fill the emptiness with noise. "Hey," David whispered, almost surprised by the sound of his own voice. The dog startled, then backed away. A neighbor appeared behind him, a woman in her 40s, hair pulled back, holding a set of keys. "You must be David," she said. "I'm Lena. I look after Max when his owner's on shift." She stepped inside, knelt down, and the dog, Max, leapt into her arms, still trembling. "He was abandoned twice before," Lena said softly. "Every time someone left. They never came back. Nights are hard for him." David stood there in the doorway, anger cooling into something heavier. He watched Max bury his face into her sweater, barking turning into soft whimpers. For the first time, David realized the noise wasn't about him at all. Max wasn't trying to ruin his nights. He was just afraid. That night, back in his own apartment, the building quiet at last, David lay awake, but it wasn't the barking keeping him up anymore. It was the echo of his own thoughts. "Every time I feel cornered, I do the same thing, don't I? I bark." He thought of the way he snapped at people, the way he filled his own silence with complaints, noise, anger. He wondered how many nights his own mind had been like that little dog, terrified of being left alone with itself. A week later, construction began on the far side of the block. Sudden drilling during the day. Hammering, shouting, it was chaos. But something strange had changed in David. He still didn't like the noise, but he started to notice something. Some days, it bothered him more than others, even when it was the same volume. On the days his mind was already crowded, Every sound felt unbearable. On the days he was calmer, the same sounds seemed tolerable. The world hadn't changed, but his relationship with it had. One evening, after a long, difficult day, he lay in bed listening to cars outside. No dog, just the usual city sounds. And yet his mind barked louder than ever. Regrets, unfinished tasks, old arguments, all circling like restless dogs in a small yard. He caught himself thinking, if only everything would just be quiet, then I'd finally be at peace. And then he remembered Max, barking at empty rooms, echoing his fear back at himself. A quiet thought arose. Maybe it's not the noise outside. Maybe it's the barking inside that I keep feeding. That night, David tried something new. He turned off the TV, put his phone face down, lay on his back, eyes open. He listened to cars passing, to a door closing down the hall, to his own heart beating steadily in the dark. His mind kept barking, memories, worries, complaints, but instead of chasing them, he simply noticed them. There you are, he thought. The barking dog within. He didn't try to shut it up. He just sat beside it, the way Lena had sat beside Max, and let it be afraid without turning away. Slowly, the thoughts began to soften. The barking didn't vanish. It just lost its teeth. Weeks later, a new neighbor moved into the building. This time, it wasn't a dog. It was a baby. The crying at night was sharp, sudden, relentless, slicing through the thin walls like sirens. Old David would have cursed, written angry notes, told himself his life was ruined. But now, when the baby cried, David took a breath. He placed a kettle on the stove, waited as it whistled, then poured tea into a spare mug. He walked downstairs, knocked gently on the new neighbor's door. A tired young couple answered, eyes red, baby wailing in the background. David held out the mug. "Thought you might need this," he said. "It gets loud in this building sometimes." They laughed, exhausted but grateful. And as he walked back upstairs, baby still crying, city still humming, life still noisy as ever, David smiled to himself and thought, the world will always bark, but I don't have to bark back.